Welcome everybody. Welcome to SpeakuP Monday here at Tropical Nomad. We're going to be here for a long time, thanks to Itchy and Bella from Tropical Nomad. So guys, if you're new to the show, so every Monday, this is number 61, episode 61. Yes.
Go Rob.
And 61 times we've been doing this, and it all started off because of a crazy Norwegian guy called Morten, who I met back at Tamora Gallery when we had a place called Lyfe in Bali. And I caught him running down the laneway, twirling his girlfriend, like in the middle of the day. You don't do that in the middle of the day, do you? And I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm twirling my girlfriend. I went, what, now? He goes, yes. And we got along from like straight off with like a house on fire. And as it turns out, he's not a speaker and a coach and all the rest of that. And when we got to know each other a little bit more, after about 5 minutes, he said, you're a speaker, right? I said, yeah. Because you got a place, right? Yeah. Because why are you doing speakers here? I said, that's a good idea. And that's how SpeakuP Monday was basically born. So now that was 61 episodes ago, and what I'm very happy and proud to say is that we're still going. And what makes this interesting is that it's really a platform, a conversation to bring some really inspiring people on, and for people to understand that we all have a story, right? Maybe from different parts of the world, different colors, ideologies, religiosity. What a word, religiosity! Can't say that 3 times in a row very quickly. I get stuck, right? But yet we all have
even
these,
a word?
I'm not even sure. Yet we all have these things in common, right? These things that bring us together. These things that I truly believe that we inspire human beings, inspire other human beings. And quite often it's just through another story, right? That maybe in our story, we're used to it, so it's not really inspiring to us anymore. But then when you sit down with somebody and then they pull out little things, and then it's like, wow. As a person watching it, you gain insights and things that you were never maybe cognizant of before, and then that can change your life, right? So that's from the point of view of an audience member. Yet when we're here, as being interviewed, sometimes we're being interviewed a lot. We get used to saying things as we do all the time. But sometimes there's that question that makes you stop and think, and it's like, wow, I never thought of that question before. Not that it's uncomfortable, but just because maybe you haven't thought about that before. And maybe you might pause, right? And maybe you might think, well, maybe you can answer it, maybe you can't. But the beautiful thing is that what I find is that, from that perspective, what happens is the next few days, you're there and that question's kind of going around your head, and it creates another doorway that opens up and a new pathway to something else, and that's what I really love about it. So it's symbiotic. The audience is getting something, but also as a person being interviewed or a person talking, you get something as well, right? So that's the premise of it. And the last thing I'll say before we start is if you get that little pull, that little tug from the universe while you're watching this, and you'll know what I mean if it happens to you, and you kind of know deep down, it's like not even very deep down, I should do a SpeakuP too, then all you do is you get in touch with me, right? So you just send me either a private message or Instagram, which I'm not on at the moment, but soon I will be back on Instagram, or mobile or WhatsApp. Just send me a message and we can work it out. Because the way I see it is this: if you're getting that pull from the universe, then it means you're supposed to be here. It's not up to me to say whether you're qualified or not, because I know that you are, right? So that's how it works. Do not be shy. When you get that tug from the universe, give in to the tug, and just hit me up, right? And before you know it, within 4 weeks, you'll probably be on the show. So last week, who do we have? It was me. Last week was me doing Turn Your Story into a Book. Week before it was a guy called Adrian Reed, amazing guy here in Bali. I call him a magician, right? So Adrian Reed, the magician. But this is the very first one, a Tropical Nomad, that we're going to do like this. I'm going to leave some pictures of the setup that we have here. It's extraordinary. It is amazing. It is the best setup I've ever had. I feel so privileged, right? And honored, to have this whole thing going on around us, as opposed to me and one of these, right? A little mobile phone, and me going like talking into the mobile phone with another guy somewhere else talking to a mobile phone. Now we're changing the game. So I'm just so happy with Itchy and the guys in Tropical Nomad. Been treating us really, really well. Great coffee, great food, great everything. Love it. And Bella is amazing. Oh. Anyway, that's enough about me. Enough about this. Let's get started. So each week, as I mentioned before, we have a wonderful guest that sometimes is a guest which volunteers themselves, but then sometimes I get a tug, a pull from the universe to say, you know what? I need to get this person on. Now with Sue, right? First time I met Sue was through the Yak magazine. Sophie Digby, if you're watching, thank you for bringing us together. And Sue's amazing, right? Because she's like this, like, I wouldn't call you pint-sized, right? But like, maybe everything's
You already have. You already have.
I did, didn't I? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I did mean it, right? But she has got so much energy, passion, and drive that to me was like instantly attractive. It's like, wow, this woman is amazing, right? And then when I found out what she did, then I kind of put two and two together and realized this is an amazing human being. And like pretty shortly after that, I thought it would be great to have her on SpeakuP Monday, but I didn't mention it back then, by the way. And the thought kind of came and went. And then like a few weeks ago, we're talking again because we're working on this sound system for Tamora Square that eventually we're going to finish. And I just thought like Sue would be a great guest, and it just reminded me. So then what I did is I did the complicated task of asking her, saying, Sue, do you want to be a guest on SpeakuP Monday? And she said yes. So I'm like, yes, great. So look, let's get to Sue. So Sue, I was born in northeast London, and Sue hails from northwest London. So we speak the same language with a different accent. Right? And I just love her energy and just the person that you are. And as we'll get into later on, she's doing some amazing things for Bali, for the people that live in Bali, people who are from Bali, for the people who are working with her company. Vision One, Virtuoso is one of the only companies I think on the island which has really looked after its employees from start to finish through this whole COVID situation, which for me gives me an amazing deep respect for you, honey.
Thank you.
For doing that, right? And lots of people talk a good game, but they don't deliver. Whereas you talk and deliver a great game, So I actually love that. So let's kick this off. So tell us a little bit more about where you're from in London and what grabbed you about music and production and sound and all the rest of that.
Yeah, I grew up North London, as you said, Camden, fantastic place to grow up. Camden Lock, everything around there, love the place still, even though it's a bit more touristy and flashy now. But had lots of fun growing up. When I was about 16, 17, didn't know what I wanted to do, leaving school, had no idea except I had a passion for sports and music. Played a little bit of drums, and luckily a friend came to me and said there was a youth training scheme for sound engineering. You remember youth training screens back in the day?
Yes.
Yeah, like a government-funded course that you could learn a trade and then hopefully get a job. And there was one in sound engineering. I had no idea what sound engineering was like. I asked my friend, can I play drums there? Yes, all right, I'm in. So luckily I got a placement there. So learned about sound engineering for 2 years, got a placement, which is where I met my first business partner. We worked in Fleet Street in this little tiny studio. We were basically producing songs for people. So they'd come with lyrics, and I still remember our newspaper ad. It was, if you've got the talent, we've got the expertise. So my business partner then was about the same age as me, 17, 18, but he's an absolute genius, amazing guy. Surrounding yourself with the right people is half the trick. And he taught me loads of stuff about music, he's an amazing pianist, amazing technical guy. So I learned to write songs for people. From there, we went on to set up our own studio in Holloway, recording and rehearsal rooms, which was quite amazing for us at that age, 18, 19, having our own studios. We did everything there from making the bacon sandwiches for the bands to, recording 21-piece bands. We had a lot of good people coming through. It was such a creative, amazing space for me. And I just had such a great start to my career there. So from there, ended up moving over to Brunei, which was a bit of a weird story. And a friend of ours went out there, started setting up all the recording and rehearsal studios and concert venues for the royal family. And he went there, made his millions, he used to repair equipment in our studio. He went out and called us out a couple of years later. And I thought I was going to be there for 3 months, and I ended up there 2 years. So after the culture shock and the kind of getting over being in a different climate with different people and all the rest of it, and a bit of homesickness, probably about 6 months in, I realized that I didn't want to come back. Southeast Asia just had something really, really special about it. My 2-year contract was up over there, and a friend of mine, my mentor really in Brunei, who taught me a lot about live engineering and everything I did there, said that there might be an opportunity in Hard Rock Bali. So Hard Rock Bali had just opened, it was around 1998, They just opened, they had all this state-of-the-art equipment put in, sound, lighting, video systems, and no one to run it. So I went over, came over to Bali, thought that sounds nice. You know, I'll do anything to come and stay in Bali. Interviewed, and he said, listen, I don't care what you know or don't know, you're in if you're willing to help me, because you're going to know more than my team. And I ended up at Hard Rock Bali for 2 years. I knew I wasn't really a hotel person, but I met some amazing people there. I gained some whole new set of skills. You know, nothing like running a studio. It's very structured. You have P&L meetings and all this stuff. I'm like, wow, what's all this? But it gave me the tools I needed to feel like I could then set up a business again. Didn't plan to stay at Hard Rock much longer. Contract was up again. So instead of renewing, I met my next business partner there. And he was an engineering guy, but again, another great mind. I could see the potential in him, but he didn't have the other side to that, to want to come out and do something on his own. We just clicked right away, and we ended up setting up our own company, which became Vision One. Renting sound, lighting, video systems. You know, we started really small. We took a loan, quite a big loan, because it is not cheap to start out in this business. You know, $30,000 goes nowhere. It's a little sound system, a few lights. We registered the company, did all of that. And a few months later, the first bomb happened here in Bali. So of course, that was a real spanner in the works. And what we expected to be a year return ended up being 7 years to pay that back, but we did it. So that really was it was tough. Of course it was tough. There's no need to say how difficult and disastrous that was for everybody here, you know, for the Balinese to deal with that. But it solidified this being my home. I really felt like after all that, you know, we had 2 years of struggle, and we struggled through and we came back, and then I knew this is home, you know, and seeing that and experiencing that with all those people here. So we came back. Moved on from there, ran Vision One for, I don't know, about 10 years. In that time, my business partner moved on. I took on a new business partner, who is my life partner as well, Helen. She came in, she's got an event background, she came in to run weddings, so we took over and continued on. That's about 16 years ago. And in and around 2014, we kind of both were in a place where we'd done everything we wanted to do in the business. And I think when you're in this business, events, you know, music, events, all of this kind of thing, you can give everything to it, because it takes everything, I believe. You don't have a job, it is your life. And once you come to a point, which some people do, that you're not feeling that anymore. You know, even though we're only renting equipment, we did a lot more than that. You know, I had production management and other things. If you're not all in there, then you know it's time maybe to do something else. And we were both in that place. It's long hours, late nights, and I loved it. You know, it's a bit of a love-hate relationship, because the struggle you go through to make an event happen, no one can understand except event people. But the pleasure of seeing, and I can't even explain that feeling when you stand over an event and it's going off, and you look at you and your team go, we did that. There's nothing like that. You know, it's like the best high you've ever had. You know, I don't know myself. Someone's told me that.
You know, like, so just a couple of things that I want to stop you on. Now, by the way, when I was earlier, I was sharing it. I wasn't not paying attention. I was just sharing it to a few other groups.
I know, Rob. You're always paying attention, mate. I know. You
got that. If you've got questions, by the way, guys, feel free to send the questions in, and we'll get those questions answered. Okay. Now, what the thing that instantly strikes me about you is your energy, right? So like, what is it? You know, two questions really, but the first one is like, what is it that I see you as being an incredibly positive person, right? Where does that come from? Where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from realizing that it works for me, finding that positivity in whatever that situation may be, and probably what happened in Bali really brought that home to me. I think before then, you know, I'd worked hard and I'd had businesses, and I'd been in a business that it pushed me, but not in the way that coming to Bali and experiencing that had. And I think then realizing that without that positivity, it's really hard to go on, because for me, the other side of that is worry and fear and all the rest of that. If I can stay positive, it felt like it was what I'd manifest in that positivity would happen. It felt like it was impossible. I needed that first time to almost experiment with that, you know, in all of that, when I saw other people leaving and saying, look, there's no way this can work now, and how can you, finding that at the time is probably what has continued me on that path, that believing in it and being positive, because negativity never helped me, it never has. It's not done anything good for me or anyone around me, and that energy I'm passing on to other people, and you know, so I think it came from the experience of seeing it works.
Got it. And then, so then, when you were young, right? So when you came, have you got any siblings or brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got a brother and sister. They're both 9-10 years older than me. You know, my parents obviously had a couple of practice runs, and then they got it right. You know, I doubt either of them are watching.
And like, so like, were you always like a positive kid, or was there some experience that? I
think so. I've always been, I suppose, what we would call, you know, hyper. I've always been energy levels up. I think I was pretty positive generally. I think I've always looked at the bright side, if you like. Yeah, I don't think I'm a sort of, I don't like to sit still and dwell in something. You know, if something's bothering me, I'd rather move. And I remember reading something, I don't even know where, but it really stuck with me as well. And that was already when I was here, that you're either moving forwards or you're moving backwards. You're never stagnant, you're never standing still. And that doesn't mean you're always running around. That could mean physically, it could mean emotionally, it could mean, and for me that really stuck. And whenever I'm feeling a little bit, you know, not quite right or nervous or anxious about whatever that might be, I move. And for me, moving might be, instead of thinking, oh, you know, I'm not feeling good, I'm not going to the gym today, which is kind of my meditation, or, you know, I'm just gonna eat burgers for a week, which leads me down a road of more worry and concern and feeling guilty that I've done that. I find that moving in a positive direction gets me through it. And it's not ignoring it, but it's just keeping moving forwards. Yeah.
And then, would you say that your siblings, have they got a similar drive?
We're very different in some ways, and probably, I mean, a lot of people say I'm like my brother, and you know, my sister had moved out when she was probably 16, 17, and probably, well, definitely, I looked to my brother, and I followed him, and I didn't realize it till later, you know, I kind of idolized him because I did everything he did, you know. He was a weightlifter, he's lifting weights, I'm lifting weights, you know. He's playing football, I'm playing football. And it's funny, I didn't actually join all these dots. He had a Mini for the first car, I had a Mini for the first car, and I didn't even realize that was happening. So I'd say that he inspired me, especially on the sports side, because I've only so far had 2 passions, actually number 3 now with all this, but sports and fitness and music. They've been my 2 things. And I knew I'd probably go in one of those directions, and he is definitely the one that brought that to me. You know, he taught gymnastics, and he's always been in that, and that definitely resonated with me. So I'd say, you know, he probably taught me some bad things as well, you know, some bad habits and all. He was a Queen fan. I know all the Queen songs, not a bad thing. But my sister was more, I was definitely more involved with my sister as we got older. You know, she'd take us on holidays, and being that so much difference in age, and her children, you know, I'd look after them quite a lot, and they sort of became almost like more siblings to me, because she was quite young when she had her first child. You know, I was an auntie very young. You know, I've got the photos of that. I didn't look very happy, neither did she. But I was close to them both, but we are very, very different. But she'd be more taking us out and doing stuff while, you know, my brother was off doing God knows what, you know, modifying another car or something.
And you said that she left at 16, right? So she was incredibly independent from a young age?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I mean, she had a child quite young, so she had to grow up fast, you know. And yeah, but we, you know, we all lived in the same area then. You know, and those were the days where you moved out of your family home, you'd probably be up the road somewhere, you know, 10 minutes this way, 10 minutes that way. A very working class London, people move out and they often stay in the same, would be around, you know, my brother would be up the road there and my sister up the road. So we were always close. We saw each other often, but of course, as you all get a bit older and I started working at the studio and so on, you've got to make more efforts. Yeah, but she was definitely very independent.
You know, what I love to see, you know, is like connect the dots a little bit, you know, because, you know, like the way we feel, the way we are now rarely comes from nowhere. You know, like it's come from somewhere. When I was at the age of 12, there was a 100 Years War, studying in history. And it was a 100 Years War in the Middle East. There are many 100 Years Wars. And I remember a kid in the back of the class put his hand up and said, "Hey, miss, 100 Years War, yes. Can't be the same people fighting, can it?" And I remember this flew over my head, right? Years later, I got it. And it was like, you know, it's what we pass on. You know, that early age, those integral years of theta brainwave state, we're like a sponge for everything. And it's not that we listen to what people are saying, but we do what people do. We mimic, right? And we become this mimicker. And how that affects our life going forward to the RAS, and we draw experiences in that go to qualify and to equalize exactly what we were brought up with, right? So the thing which really gets me is that, like, you also have a really strong sense of fairness, of equity, you know. So where do you think that came from?
Well, I think you know, my parents brought me up right. They've done something right, but my dad had a very strong work ethic. And he was always upbeat around us and always laughing and joking and all of that. And I think some of that comes from him as well. But I think I saw that work ethic and that drive and that determination to just get stuff done. That definitely rubbed off on me, you know. And the concept of fairness, my mum, which again, I assume it comes from there in some way. I'm a real animal lover. You know, I'm one of those, and I saw my mum, you know, if there's a bird in the road or a rat or whatever it might be, it's getting picked up and we're going to try and save it. We always had loads of animals around. She was a real animal lover. And again, that sort of brought home to me, you know, everything deserves a chance. Everything deserves a chance at life. And I do that today. You know, if the cats are batting around something, I just can't, unless it's too late. I'm like, I've got to give it a try, you know, get something. And so I think, and of course, some of it comes from inside of you and whatever's gone on in the rest of your life, school and friends and so on. But that definitely, those two things were there, you know, that sense of everything deserves to live. And I loved having animals around, and I think it's a wonderful thing for kids to grow up around animals. I think it's really important. We get something from them, I'm sure, you know, some, of course, unspoken loyalty and that kind of love. It's unconditional, you know, and I think that definitely was a part of it.
You know, because, like, you know, what I can see, you know, that comes across is, like, you know, where you are now. And, you know, you told me the other day when we met, you know, what you're doing for your staff, you know, like during this time. And it's, to me, in a way, it is going back to that, you know, like, instead of doing stuff for people, it's like you teach them how to fish, and then they can catch their own fish, right? As opposed to giving them the fish.
Sure.
Right? So in your own words, like, I'd love you to kind of go into, you know, what you're currently doing for your staff and where that came from.
Okay. I mean, you said in the beginning, you know, what I'm doing for Bali, and again now, you know, I've got as much from Bali, Indonesians, the island, my team. I've received as much as I've given. You know, it's certainly not a one-way street. Yeah, I'm blessed to have ended up here, absolutely. And the team I have around me, absolutely amazing, and they're worth every second of my time. But basically, we've always been, you know, I mentioned Vision 1, how we came to that, and then we on from there, 2016, we actually handed over the company to the staff. Not handed over, well, yeah, we became silent partners, if you like. We've always been around to help, but it'd been a 2-year process. We knew we didn't want to continue, and we saw that they potentially could. But I had 2 years of getting my head around letting go, you know, thinking, what am I if I'm not Vision 1? That was a bit of a, it was a bit of a process for me. But I knew I needed more time, and you know, we both wanted more time to travel and do all sorts of stuff. So at that time when they took over Virtuoso, I mean, up to that point, we'd always tried to run the company in a way that it felt like everyone's. It felt like we were all in. And in the beginning of Vision One, I was working with the team. And well, right until all the way through, but right at the beginning, I was really hands-on with them, and that definitely made a huge difference, being in there with them. Learning Indonesian was a huge thing, you know, because half of my staff, probably more than half in the beginning, couldn't speak any English. So learning the language, getting in there, showing them that I was ready to do, and then seeing what I could get from them, what could I learn from them, what lessons were there. And that was a culture shock and a process too, but realizing that there was so much for them to give to me, you know, whether that be calmness, patience, all of the things that I was lacking definitely then. I'm not perfect right now, but being in there, being hands-on with them already made us feel more like a family for sure, as well as the things, you know, staff outings and awards and things that they weren't used to being in other rental companies. You know, I wanted to try and make us something more. But once we handed over to them and they took over the company and they took over all of our clients, and all of our clients were happy for them to do so, and got a load of new clients themselves. It's amazing. They've surpassed anything they could achieve. Once it was in their hands, we remodeled again. We discussed it together, and it's a partnership of all of them, you know. And that, you know, before all of this, that's how it's run. And from 2016 till now, they have just gone from strength to strength. And I remember going to one big event and thinking, I better be there, you know. I know this client, it might be a bit difficult. And I got there and it was up at Ungasan. They were doing video mapping on the cliffs and all sorts of stuff. And I get there, you know, what am I going to do? I didn't need to do anything. There was nothing for me to do. And that's a funny feeling. I'm like, I'm not needed. Wow, I'm not needed. That's amazing. Look at what they have achieved. But that concept of everyone being a partner, and I thought about that when I watched Adrian's Speak Up. Everyone's a partner. Everyone's a profit share partner. It's our team. It's our company. And I wish I'd done it in Vision One, but hey, it's happened now. So that was the remodeling. It'll be yours. So that already changed. I could see again the attitude of the team. They could really feel like it was theirs. They could really feel like it become their baby, if you like. And from there, it was trying to find other ways outside of the business to come together, to feel like we're a team, not only there, team building activities and things that brought us together without sound, lighting, stress, you know, weddings and all of that, just bring us together. And that definitely started to, it made us even stronger. And the feeling of the team that you can come and go as you please, as in if you want to go on and do something, you have our blessing. Because in the beginning, I couldn't do that, because in Bali, you'll gather a team of people together and of course you never want to lose them. Well, anyway, it's not just Bali, but you find your people and you're like, this is perfect. And then what can happen is you get a little bit, you then spend the rest of the time worrying about if someone's going to leave, and you hear things and they're going to go, and it's pointless, right? So it was moving into a place of, guys, if you ever want to do anything and move on and set up your own thing, talk to us about it, tell us, and if we can help you, because we've brought you to that place and now you can go on, we should be proud of that. So little things like that. And then of course COVID changed things and has taken things to another level again. And when all of this happened, initially I was in complete shock, I have to say. You know, over a week period we lost all of our business, and it was hard to get your head around that. There was fear, there was shock and fear, thinking, oh my God, how can a company survive without any business? And you know, I couldn't get my head around it, and that took probably a week. And after that, again, I thought of that, okay, there's got to be movement here. If I'm just sitting here in this place, this is not good for me, I've got to move. So we got together and already started doing things, whether that be, okay, let's all get together in the warehouse, you know, everybody's happy, it's all good. They had to see our faces. It's important for us all to be together, you know, not these, what's going on, have we got out? So we all got together, guys, had a little chat about it. This is what's happening. It's all good. We've got this. This is what we're going to do. And then we did our little photo session, you know, temperatures taken and all of that. Got in real quick just to get everyone together and make everyone feel like we are one team still. Don't worry. And from there, what I wanted to do was first ensure that they weren't stressing about, I looked at what was going on out there around me, wow, this madness, and a lot of people were in our position in small and mid-level businesses, you know, trying to figure this out, how are we going to survive, how are we going to keep all of that going on. I kind of decided if we can make sure they're financially safe, let's say. So, you know, we looked at all the figures and worked out, okay, if we all take a pay cut, we can all survive on this. Meetings for days and days, this is what we can do. Okay, guys, we're good for 8 months to a year, all right? Doesn't mean we're going to sit here and wait, okay? But we're good, so stop worrying about that. That's gone, we don't have to worry, okay? Wow. Next step is, so what are we going to do now? We're certainly not just going to sit around and have time to think and worry, and social media and news and everything feeding us with what I think is often negative stuff. It doesn't do us any good. So straight away we started out with, you know, an early bird special for weddings and put that out to organisers, also to show we're still here. And we were around, that we didn't disappear. Everyone knows what we're doing, you know, hi guys, you know, we've got to have a little, you know, while we're sitting back and maintaining in the, so in the beginning we started to already come up with ways to move forwards, and as a team, so everybody had things to do. Straight away we started renting the truck. We got a big truck. Okay, what can we do? Yeah, we can do transport. Do it at a cheap price. We can help charities with that as well. These amazing charities here that are doing fantastic work. We can get in there and keep the boys busy, keep momentum going, keep everybody motivated. And for me as well, I have to say, at the beginning I'm like, oh my God, you know, I haven't had to hustle for 20 years. Okay, now it's time to hustle again. But once I got into it, I was loving it. You know, the home karaoke, all these things we started to come up with while this was going on to keep ourselves motivated, to keep moving, and to bring some money in. You know, and it's in the big scheme of things, it might seem like small change. You know, $50 for a week of karaoke, but 500,000 rupiah goes a long way for the team. And when you put that into a pot and it gets shared out for everybody and everyone can eat. That. You know?
I love that. And again, Adrian spoke about last week before about the circular economy.
Yes.
You know, but what I love is that, you know, like you're all working together. It's a team. People come up with ideas.
Yes.
And that's nurtured, you know, and those ideas are then acted upon. So it's not just a wish list of never gets acted upon.
Yeah.
It's an idea. So that one's got legs. Let's go deeper.
Yeah.
And you go deeper into that, and then you execute on it, and then the money comes back in, goes into a kitty, into a pool. And each of the staff draw from that what they need.
Yep.
You know, like that's phenomenal, right? It's phenomenal. And look, while we give Sue a little bit of a break, remind you that you're watching SpeakuP Monday. We're here at Tropical Nomad, filming this. We have an amazing setup this week, and we'll be here for a good long while to come on Mondays. I'm loving it. Thank you so much to the team, Itchy and Bella at Tropical Nomad. This is amazing. All right, so back to Sue. So now look. So we've got that. So now Vision One. So a few people may not know who Vision One were, and so now's your time for a bit of bragging rights, right? So now with Vision One, you know, like so who did you deal with? Who were some of your biggest clients?
We did a corporate, you know, in our corporate world, our corporate life for all those big entities, and you know, there's no need to LG Electronics and Nokia and all those people. That was sort of how we started our business and what we focused on. And, you know, in that context, we dealt with all sorts of artists, you know, John Mayer and, you know, there's an array of artists that came, you know, Jocelyn Brown and brand new Heavies, and some of those were brought for special events, and Nelly more recently. So we did all of that stuff in the corporate world. Kudeta, for those that don't know it, it's a beachside restaurant, but became really the home of high season. you know, August,
Massive
July,
events.
August, September.
Huge parties.
The Ibiza crowd would come there, and
Yeah.
I have to say big thanks to Kudeta because they put us on the map in that arena.
Yeah.
We were corporate and a few weddings.
Yeah.
It was big stuff, but it wasn't those kind of parties.
Yeah.
And they allowed us to really show what we could do, because those parties, we all grew together. We grew with Kudeta, you know. It's first parties were a few little lights and a couple of speakers, and it grew to, wow, I was bringing an Australian crew over to support us and took it to another level. They really let us shine and put us on the map in that respect. And for them, we worked with the Fugees, and yeah, Erica Badu came on there, and there were an array of acts that Cirque Du Soleil performed there, and it was nerve-wracking, I have to say, but it was absolutely amazing to do that stuff. We've done, you know, so many things here in Bali over this many years, but everything was important, from, you know, the biggest show such as that to the smallest, you know, 2 speakers and a microphone for a little party. Everything was just as important as the next.
You know, like another thing which I love about you. So the Yak Awards last year at Tamora Gallery and Vault, and well, both in Tamora Gallery, I guess. You know, I got to see, you know, who you are. You're like dum 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 dum. Like it's like every detail is discussed. Every detail is clearly understood by everybody. You're an incredible communicator, right? And that message takes a lot of energy to communicate, and you do it so well. And nothing is left to chance. Right?
Yeah.
You are one thorough woman, mamma mia, right? And I love that. But like, you know, when I think about you, right? So there may be people who are starting out in the industry, and what I love about what you're about to say, not even knowing what you're going to say, but just got a feeling about it, is that, you know, these things you can relate to anything, you know, any area, industry, adventure, pastime, something that you're into doing, right? So now comes the question. So like, what for you were the most important things, or in terms of advice of people starting in the industry now? You know, what are the most important things that you could pass on to them? These are things that you must have, or these are things that would be really good for you to have to kind of make it.
In this industry that I'm in?
Yeah.
Well, for me, I am a bit old school. And I know with this world that I don't even know what's going on here, or where it's going, or how it's getting there, and I don't want to know. All of this is great, you know. Internet, social media, everything that can now be done is fantastic, but I still think it comes back, don't forget the fundamentals of business. For me, that's what sticks with me. What's important, that the delivery of the service, the genuine passion behind it, that's really important. What I believe is, if you go for something for the money, okay, you might have some success, but you might find yourself not being very happy in it, or you might not find that success. Because for me, my experience of any business that I've done is that when the passion's there, and the ability, that you've got the skills you need, and the passion is there, the money will come, if that's what you're looking for. That has to be secondary. For me, when that's been secondary, that's been the biggest successes I've had, definitely. And I've done little bits and pieces here and there in Bali, because here there's so much opportunity, and there's so many things you end up jumping on, because it just brings it out in you here, I think. That I found that anything that hasn't worked for me was because I thought, oh, what's an easy way to just generate a little bit of extra income? Didn't work. And then when I tried to jump into it with my passion, it's not something I was passionate about. And I had to leave that behind. I had to realize that it wasn't me. And that might just be said for someone like me, because I'm all about delivering service. As I said, no matter if it's 2 speakers and a microphone, and that's what I instill in my team. Doesn't matter how big or small that client is, that event is, who's performing or who isn't, I treat it with exactly the same level of importance. It matters to me that much. And I definitely feel like the team have taken that on, and I watch them, you know, when I watch them work now, it's not a job, they do care that much, and I love seeing that. And I'm probably a bit too anal and a bit too over the top. It's probably why I don't do it anymore, because I drive myself crazy. But I like going that extra mile. For me, yeah, it's about delivering, really being able to deliver a service, and having the the skills and the knowledge behind it to do. After that, great, you're posting it out there, you've got all these promotional tools you can use now, you can get to millions of people, but I still think it needs that base to really work well. And in our industry, in any industry, as you say, that's for me the fundamentals. I don't think there's anything I'd say is specific to what we do, apart from being able to stay up, you know, for 72 hours straight. But once you love what you do, that doesn't matter anymore. And when you stop wanting to do that, that's when you know it's time to then look to what else you're doing. Yeah. You know, it's definitely staying power in our business. But the rewards in our business are great. You know, you really get rewarded. So if you're willing to put it in, you really will get it back when you stand back and look at what you've created with a group of people that seemed impossible. Kind of wish I'd filmed behind the scenes on many of the things. I don't know if anyone would have ever let me release it. But if I'd filmed behind the scenes what people didn't know, you know, when a generator fails literally 5 minutes before an event, and that's the power for the whole event, and they don't see what goes on. So probably I would say that in our industry, man, you've got to have a strong heart. You know, no weak hearts in this business, because it will take you there many, many times.
And is there any, I know there are many, but whatever comes up for you, is there any, you know, things that happen like that,
Many.
which you can talk about, right? Which you look back on, and you go like, wow, I honestly don't know how he got through that one.
Rob, that's most events. There was one in particular, it was a private event, and it actually was the one that Nelly was performing at. Private event at Knuckle Beach House. It was Luna 2 before anyway. And it was for a private client, and we were building this whole a melamine floor over the whole grass area and an LED lit, underlit dance floor in the middle. And we had such a short time to do it. It was one of my last real big events before I stepped back, thank God, because it almost killed me. And we just didn't have the time to make it happen. For the first time ever, I actually really thought, we are not going to get there now. And then you've got the client that's actually staying in that private villa, watching all this going on. So she's popping in and popping out, and she'd come down, everything okay, it's all good, things are in pieces, and you have to then be that, okay, yeah, it's all good, it's fantastic, it's going to happen, and then they're gone, and you're like, it goes crazy again. So that one, firstly, it was finishing that flooring. Of course, we still had the sound and the lighting to do, but aside from that, we had a digital audio console. And again, I'm old school. If I can go analog, I will. And I know all the, I'm not going to go into the technical details, I know all the pros of having a digital console. My God, it's one piece of equipment instead of a million, and you've got everything there. But once that, it's got a brain, like a computer, and if that crashes, you're finished. Analog, you can still do stuff, okay? So we had a digital console. I brought a sound engineer in from Australia to do the gig, and we'd done the sound check, and it was all fantastic. And they'd gone off, and there was another band coming on before, Nelly, and the whole thing crashed. And then you lose everything. You lose all of your settings and everything you've just done. And you know, with an act like this that's being paid what they were being paid to come and do the gig, then that was a moment where we already had the flooring issue going on, and I'm watching that, and then I get called by Shane, our sound engineer, can you come over, there's something going on here. I'm like, not now, you need to come over now. And it had crashed. And then we had to pull out another console that wasn't set up. Actually, the console we'd already changed out because that had a problem. I can't even explain those moments, what that feels like. You know, what you take your body to. I'm sure it takes years off your life when you do this. But I've got the best engineer in the world there. You know, I know he's got it. He worked with me at Kudeta. I know he's going to pull this off. He's calm. He's cool. We get it all patched in. He tries to remember what was here and what was there. He does the best he can. And the event could not have run more smoothly. Wow. We got the floor finished. I mean, literally, guests are about to arrive and we're still picking up pieces. You'd have had to have been there to really understood. But the client didn't realize the level of how close that was. And it was the most perfect event ever. That probably sticks in my mind. A few corporate ones, because they really pull everything out of you, you know, big corporates, yes. Philip Morris and so on, where we'd be doing four off-site dinners and then a 4-day conference, and they're expecting international standard in Bali. And you become the buffer again, where you're going, it's all good, and then you're going back going, how are we going to do this? So there are many of those moments, but that one sticks with me. Yeah.
I want to pick up on one thing that you just said, and it's going to make you laugh. Right. You said that this industry takes years off. It can take years off your life.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you never ask a lady her age. I was always taught that. Never ask a lady her age. But Sue, I know what it is, but I'm asking you, Sue, how old are you?
49.
49. You're almost 50.
The big 50.
Look, I'm looking at this face. Look at this. Like porcelain.
We can Photoshop that later, right? We can get
that. Right? I think this industry is very kind to you, because I look at you, I'll give you 30 something.
Thank you.
Early
Not
30s.
20 something. Oh man, when it's gone from 20 to 30, you're like, wow, I am getting older.
I'm like, it's like this takes years of your life. All the last 2 years have been incredibly kind. Incredibly kind. Oh my God, so good. So look, like, is there anything that you wish you would have done a different way?
As I mentioned, probably Vision 1 being a partnership. Yeah. Now seeing how it's working in Virtuoso and knowing what I do, I think I was just so busy then running a business, building a business, taking it forwards, that I don't ever think I really looked at it from afar and thought, what can we do? Apart from the little bits and pieces, like I say, team building and awards and recognizing people and making sure we helped people when they needed it. We actually had one-on-one time with staff to say what's going on. If we saw there was a little rift or something going on, that I would have liked to have seen how things would have gone if I would have done it that way. And we did have some profit share partners, but not as a whole team. Not as a whole team. That really for me probably would be the one thing. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
And then like for you, like I guess in terms of philosophy, right? So like, 'cause again, I see you and I smile, right? Like what's your approach to life? I know.
That's a horrible question, Rob.
I know. But again, this is whatever you feel comfortable answering.
I think my approach to life, wow, that's huge, that question, yeah. Rob. Because
I get from you, right? I get so much, right? I've never told you this before, right? And I'm loving we have this opportunity now.
I'm feeling all emotional now, Rob. Like, I think we need to hug it out soon.
We're going to hug it out, guys. Off camera, we're going to hug it out. We're going to hug it out. I love this, right? Like, because that's what I get from you. I just get this, like, can-do attitude, right? Like, no matter what happens, we'll get it done. And I get it when you tell me about your staff and you got everyone together, look, we're all together on this. I got it, when you said, you're in shock for a week, but then you're like, okay, we've got to move forwards, right?
Yeah.
I just get, from you all the time, just this spirit of just like, I'm never going to give up. Like, I'm just going to keep on going. And no matter how hard it seems, there's always an answer. So there's one lady, Stephanie Rodriguez, so I've spoken about before. And, and she's amazing because, I've known her for a long time. We weren't really close. Though I felt we had a close relationship, but we weren't really close.
Yep.
And in Sydney, she owned a magazine called Ocean Drive magazine, and I found her to be a very driven, spiritual woman. Like, she was in the eastern suburbs, which there's a little bit like eastern suburbs, look at me sort of thing. Was for most people that's what it felt like, but she was always down to earth with me, where I saw her. And she had this massive vision 2 years ago. I want to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people by 2025. Wow. Huge vision, right? And she's a global entrepreneur, traveling around the world, on the plane probably more times than she was not on the plane, right?
Yeah.
In Nigeria, launching this product, this app for women and other members of the community which are in danger, right? Or affected or, exposed, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So she got bitten by a mosquito, malaria. She then left Nigeria and was going through Boston, like Massachusetts, to come home to Australia at that time. Kind of her friend was with her, but she collapsed, rushed to hospital. She spent over 100 days in hospital in the US. Imagine 100 days hospital, your friends are in Australia, right? Your family, she has a son in Australia, all of that, and you're in a hospital where you've got no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
She died 3 times, given the last rites 3 times in a foreign country, right?
Wow.
Go figure. And she's like, no, like something in her was like this will of like, I'm going to find a way through this. Her toes were amputated, right? Because the drugs that she was taking was drawing blood to the vital organs and away from the extremities.
Okay.
Like frostbite, when you lose blood circulation for a certain period of time, you lose them. They wanted to amputate her legs. She's like, no way, I'm keeping my legs, right? Like full on woman, right? And like, again, with her, she's now back in Sydney, been in hospital for over 100 days again, and is beginning now to get over this and beginning to, and we're writing a book together, actually. I'm helping her write a book. And like, you know, but with her, I find the same kind of thing. It's this like can-do attitude. And sure, she has her low moments, like we all do.
Yeah.
But it's this thing of like, you know what? I'm going to do this, you know? And I don't know the future, but I have a serious feeling that what we're doing is going to be, you know, is working towards that 1 billion people positively impacted by the year 2025, you know?
Yeah. And
it's a book. And like,
cool.
so again, and I can get another lady called, I can pronounce her name, Olgitsa, and the surname won't come, but it will come back. Skrbinacek. Like, so she was, you know, Croatia, she's Serbian, you know, her best friends were Muslim, and this was before everyone was living in harmony, right? Before the war in the Balkans broke out. And then yesterday she was describing to her story of how they managed to get out of the country, and she went to stay with relatives, and shocking things were happening there. And then they moved to Germany, and then the parents split up. They didn't know if they're alive or dead. It's an incredible story. And she ended up in Australia, where finally she could settle, her and her sister. And like, but it's an amazing story. And again, this girl, Mamma Mia, like, she ain't gonna be stopped.
Yeah.
Like, she's been touched with that stick of like, I'm not gonna be stopped.
Yeah.
You know? And there's another woman, you know, we're working with at the moment, another Jamaican woman, Marsha, you know, who's nuts. And like, she is like a powerhouse. She's raised $300 million for this Jamaican charity over the years. 300 million. Blah, forget it. You know, like, powerful woman. Another woman, Christina, if you listen to this, she's in Singapore, she's Spanish originally. Her ancestry in her family tree were the ones, check this out, were the ones who financed Christopher Columbus in buying the ships. Like, which took him around the world. Like, oh.
Yeah.
So it's called Turn Your Story into a Book, and that's what I'm doing. But some amazing women, you know, around me. But what I see is like, you know, within all of us, you know, we have these traits, you know, hardwired within us.
Yep.
But sometimes it takes a tragic situation to kind of put us into that place.
Yes.
You know, it takes a situation that we're not used to, that feels uncomfortable at the time. But out of it, we just, we dig deep.
Yeah.
And out of this comes like something, you know, that just moves us and spurs us on, right?
Yes.
So what I see in you is the same. So when I say to you, when I ask you, you know, like how do you approach life? It isn't necessarily about everything that you've done, you know, over the years, and every situation, experience led you to being the way you are now. Your parents giving you that can-do attitude, you know, the will, you know, the equity, the fairness, right? You know, the humor from your dad, like all of that stuff, and I connect with your humor, by the way. You know, so what I'm asking is like, you know, when you wake up every day, like, how do you wake up? Like, is there a routine? Is there like a morning routine that you wake up every day? Before you go to sleep, you think about 3 things you're grateful for that day. Okay. And when you wake up in the morning, is it like, you know, the first thing I do is I think about what I'm grateful for? Is it that, you know, I go to the gym every day, and that's my temple that you mentioned before? Like, like what is it, you know, that you do that maybe people could, you know, can learn from? And like, I guess one of the greatest ways to see this, and this is really powerful, learned this from Evan Carmichael the other day, reminder of it, is that, you know, like when we stop thinking about ourselves and think of, you know, being in service to others, it gets us out of the way. Yes. And then we stop trying to internalize, we just speak from that place of, you know, like in service to others. Because the way I see you, and this is what attracts me to you as well, is that you're a person, for whichever reason, is a person who is in service of others. And we spoke about your team and how you're supporting them. But I think even if you didn't have this, like, it would be another vehicle for you to be like that. Yeah. So then reframing that question, it's like, that's where I'm coming from. Okay, well, thank you for answering that question so beautifully for me. I think I get where you're coming from. I see what you know, where
I think the way I would answer that question is that in an example of what we're doing now, I suppose, of where we're going, as where I'm going, where we're going, that COVID obviously has made huge differences in all of our lives. But for me, I don't want to say it's a blessing because, you know, if you're not in Bali, Bali is struggling. There's a lot of people having a really hard time here, and I'm not taking away from any of that. But it's finding the positives in that and finding what we can do. That when I stopped running Vision One, I kind of had two things that I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't going to retire, and those two things were moving into more sustained living, permaculture, growing food and all that, and that comes from my niece. She lives off-grid in France, and she's absolutely amazing, an inspiration to anyone, you know, and her then partner had nothing, and they just took acres of land in rural France, built their own pods, own solar power, you know, YouTube how to create solar power. They live completely off-grid, absolutely fascinating. Every year I go back and see her, I knew I was getting more and more into this. I'm loving this simplistic way of living, and the fact that people would look and say, how can you sacrifice? And we go and see her and spend time with her. There's no sacrifice. This is all giving. This is all giving. Such a simple life, so much less to worry about. So knew I wanted to move into that area, and I also wanted to start giving back more. I realized, you know, Bali has given me so much, really. The people, the business side of it. I wanted to find how I could give back. But in these two areas, I never really found a way, and I did a little bit of volunteering. I'm an animal lover, and you know, I was doing a little bit of, okay, you know, next month I'll start growing, but with trips and travel. So I had these two things that I really wanted to do, and then this happened. And suddenly it became clear that now I can do both of these things, two things to bring together that I've got no reason not to. Here we are, and that can actually be so much bigger than I thought it would be. I always thought I'd go off eventually, you know, we'll get a piece of land and I'll start doing a bit of farming, whatever. It's involving my team, and I think it's all about the community around you. For me, I think I now, with everything I've learned, I would live my life by thinking about who's around you and how can you take care of them, and not thinking so big. Because what I also find is I've done a lot of thinking in such a big scale that overwhelms me, and can end up thinking, I don't think I can make a difference. And I've realized now that my way forwards is to look at what's around me and see what can I do there, because I now know that is what makes change, rather than being paralyzed by fear and worry that it's all so big. Like, people are starving here right now, you know, people are losing their jobs. There's a lot of tough stuff happening here, and it can feel so big. And I spoke to someone and said, you know, what can we do? And that really for me is now how I'm living my life, thinking about the circle around me and what I can do, and bringing those two things together. And when all this happened, we've got some land up in Bedugul, you know, in the center of Bali, pretty much in the mountains. And with all of this stuff we're doing with the team, pretty much straight away, we already started talking about a community garden up there, because we can all keep trying to make money and worrying about money and worrying how we'll go on, and there's only so much we can all give in that area, but we realize how fragile we are now and how reliant we are on that, on money, and how without it we really kind of, as a team, all of us were like, well, how's this? But realizing that the way forwards, and what, like you said, giving, instead of giving someone a fish, giving them a rod, you know. And I want to do it too. I want to do this with this team, that we go up, we set up a community garden, we all learn how to grow food. We're all doing it already. You know, if you go to my warehouse now, it's full of fruit, it's full of vegetables, everyone's trying to grow at their little houses everywhere, you know. And now when we have a meeting, when we have our weekly meeting, it's not a meeting about which event's coming up, it's a meeting about which seeds have you got, how did that go, did that tomato, well, look, it's something else is happening right now, and I'm loving it from the point of view of, now I can't, it's not me giving something, it's as a team we can move, because they're all loving it too. I'm not saying it's everybody's cup of tea, but they can't wait to show me a photo of, you know, the chilies and this and that. So the community garden is a way for us to spend time together doing something other than what we've done, that community. And then on from there, my idea of how that grows and how then you take that further out is, okay, we do that. Okay, we've got to build something there to stay in, to be able to hang out in, something away, it's all completely exposed. Okay, how can we recycle and upcycle and put something together of everything we've got in the warehouse and make something together? Okay, we need a toilet up there. Okay, let's do a compost toilet. I'm thinking of how I can bring in all the things I've been excited to do that's taking it to moving people towards a sustainable life. Because if you can grow your own food, it doesn't mean you've got everything there. We can't grow rice. Rice is a staple of the Indonesian diet, but we can do a lot. We can grow a lot there, and then you can get chickens if you've got this big piece of land, and eggs are coming from there, and the sky is the limit. And if we do that, it's bringing to all of us something more than just, okay, COVID happened, when are the events coming back? The time has gone for when are events coming back. Whenever it happens, it does. We've put that to one side. We're taking a new route now. And when events come back, we're there, we're ready. However, right now we're going here, and I love the idea of being able to bring that to my team. And maybe, some of them might love it, some of them might be like, oh, it's not for me, but overall, opening their minds to, okay, let's all get on YouTube today and find a way to build our own solar panel, just to charge our phones. I know it's possible. I've seen my niece do the most amazing things. So for me, it's bringing that to them. From there, then we bring in other vendors. We know all the other suppliers here. They're competitors, friendly competitors. We know them. Let's bring a few more in, trying to widen that. So while this is all going on, we can find a way to become more sustainable. We know that Bali has problems with rubbish and, plastic, the bye-bye plastic thing, zero waste is coming. We can start moving somewhere else now. And it doesn't put what we do on a shelf, but it takes us somewhere else. And out of that, we're linking up with Crisis Kitchen now, and there's a lot of farmers up there that have got stuff that they can't sell because all the hotels and the restaurants are not running. They've got rows and rows of salad and other things so we're trying to link up with Crisis Kitchen, trying to put a little bit of money in their pockets, getting some of that, going up in the truck, pulling that down to Crisis Kitchen. They need to feed people in the short term, because that's what's happening right now. Food bags are going out, but maybe even trying to link them in. We could extend, we've got a big enough piece of land, they're bringing them in because they're now using donation money to buy food. They know that business model, it's not a business model, it can't last forever. And we don't know how long. There's thousands of meals going out every day from all of these charities. So trying to widen that again so that we're giving back, we're helping. And instilling in the team that no matter how tough it is for us, and it's not easy right now, it's an uncertain future and all that, putting that to one side and thinking, how can we give back? So when we rent our karaoke system, 50,000 goes back to Crisis Kitchen. We could use that 50, but instilling in them what I think my way forward is, and opening that to them as well, that we give back. Everything we do, there's money going to donations. We bring more people in to learn how to grow their own food. And the sky's the limit of this. I'm really excited about this, Rob. I didn't expect this, and it's brought together two things that I really wanted to do. So, a bit selfish, but I wanted to make these happen, but I realized this is how we can do more, and that can widen. And I'm just thinking of our community around us, whether that be the farmers, whether that be our own team, whether it be the team's family members that learn something new. How can we move forwards and do something good for Bali and the people? So, if I had to answer that question, it would be, think about your local community and what you can do for them, because if we all did what we could do for our local communities, imagine what that would mean, and how much we could do if we could all just do that, our own circle. And just on a side note to that, what I find is, you mentioned it early on, that what I'm seeing in the businesses and the people that I know is it's the small and medium businesses that are doing this. I've spoken to a real like-minded people. I'm speaking to Lee Stone, I'm speaking to Tina Ardi, big promoters and event people on the island, the biggest, and they're on the same sort of track of it's in your community first, and it's those businesses that are not having an easy time. It's not that we're all going, we've got so much money, we can do this, are realizing this is the way forward for us, small and medium businesses. I kind of love to see some of the bigger businesses maybe doing a bit more of that. I don't know what everyone's doing, but seeing a bit more of that in the bigger organizations.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, darling.
But that's really exciting.
Yeah. One thing which I do, I just want to draw some attention to, I had, three friends. I still have them. I still have them. And when this whole thing kicked off, they were in Bali and they were like, got to get out of Dodge, got to get back to, one went back to Australia, one went back to England, one went back to the US. Now all three of them, about a month after that, then kind of in separate ways said to me, Rob, we made the biggest mistake, right? I wish we would have stayed in Bali. And, again, as you so rightly said, there's a lot of stuff going on everywhere in the world, and Bali hasn't necessarily got a safety net as some of these other kind of Westernized countries have, But I'm so, eternally grateful to be here, right? I just find that Bali is a place where you can be, and it supports you to live and to create, especially now. And what those other guys have reported back to me has been this thing of like, they feel that there's a systematic kind of pushing them into believing or thinking in a certain way. Yep. And which is restrictive. Yep. Now what I find here is that it's kind of the opposite. I think Bali forces you to be better somehow. Yeah. I can't put it in other words, than that, Yeah,
and it gives you the room, I'd say. It gives you the space to do whatever you want to do, to dream. It really makes you feel like anything's possible, which I kind of didn't feel in the West. Yeah. Yeah. It anything you can think of, for me personally, anything I could think of doing, well, maybe I could try that. I feel like I can do it. And it might succeed, it might fail, but I'll give it a go. Nothing ever makes me second guess that, which I think is one of the wonderful things, and I do think it's about Bali. It's such a melting pot here anyway, and I'm surrounded by so much inspiration, because it does draw, it has, of course things change over the years, and in my time, in the good old days, it's full of entrepreneurs, people that have just landed here and gone, okay, what am I going to do now? And okay, that's not working. And jack of all trades is probably not the right terminology, but some people that just go, like you said, people that would just get up and go and do it. Okay, that didn't work, let's do that. And that's that creativity around me in Bali, as well as the culture here, the spirituality of the Balinese, and the fact the Balinese and Indonesians generally are so easy. They're just so calm, generally, calm and unassuming, and they give you the space to do it. And it pushes you to see how respectful you really are, and how far you will go when you can, as in, you're in a restaurant in London and you want to change this thing 4 times, you can try and change it once, you're out, whereas here I want this, I think it challenges you, and I think the Balinese, Indonesians generally, if you're angry, and I learnt this very early on, you get angry and scream and shout, unlikely they're going to scream and shout back. They might even smile and laugh, because that's the natural reaction. They're nervous. But that's gone in. That's gone in. And you burn too many bridges here. You burn bridges, and this is a perfect time to see how this all pans out. If you burn bridges here with the local community, you may not think on the surface anything's wrong. Yeah, they were fine about it. It's all good. Because I'm used to, in my business and how I learn, it's a male-dominated environment. People just scream at each other. Who's screaming the loudest? Get out, done, get it. And that's what happens. And often it happens like that in the West. It can be that environment. You're on the defensive. You're sitting on a bus and someone's looking at you, ready thinking, what's this guy looking at me for? He's smiling now. Shit, is he going to attack me now? Whereas here, everybody smiles at everyone. And if you lose the trust of the community and locals, it's gone forever. And that's a big lesson. And for me, that has definitely made me a better person, a better me. I like myself a lot more now. I can say that that's what this place brought to me, and has given me. God, Bali just gives you so much. This is home. This really, really is home. And as you say, so grateful and feel so lucky to be here right now, giving us that freedom and that space. And that's even more so why I think it's time to give back. So time to give back now. If it ever was, this is it. This is our moment. Anyone, I think, that's well, whether you've been here 5 minutes or 20 years, if you feel like you've got something from Bali, have a look around your community now and see how you can give back. What can you do? And that doesn't mean, it could be in any way, it could be in many ways. It could be an idea to bring people together. It could be giving a donation. It's however you want to express it. But really think about it, because when you ride around Canggu, this area, and you don't feel it, because people are still smiling and they're still trying to be the same as they were. It's not like people are there crying on the streets and all. You don't feel it, but it is there. So take it on now and give back, because we have been given so much by this place, really.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And look, so I'm pretty sure we're way over an hour. But that's how we roll, people.
You talk too much, Rob.
I love it. I love it. So look, now, a few little things I want to share. One is, so for those watching you now, so if you're watching live, blessings and thanks. Now, usually I get to share this on all my different platforms and everything else, but I don't want to appear to be rude here, standing here while you're talking and sharing on all these platforms. So for those of you who are watching it live, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. If you're watching this on replay, which is more than likely the case, like every week we do this, okay? Every Monday from the SpeakuP Monday group, and we're soon going to do it from the broadcast on YouTube. So this is a collaboration with Tropical Nomad, Itchy and Bella, who are here working behind the scenes to make all of this happen. And I'm so indebted, appreciative of you guys. Thank you so much, right? And like each week we're going to get better and better and better, and then we'll share it to more places, then we get it on YouTube. So we usually get somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 views of this, but they're all in Bali. 90% is in Bali. So yes, if you are watching this, right, and it resonates with you, please share it, right? Because it's like people like this, beautiful Sue, who didn't want to come and speak, but you're a natural girl. Goodness gracious me, can't shut her up, which is good, right? I love that, right? And there you go. She agrees now. You watch after, you're going to see Sue speaking everywhere, right? That's what happens. So please share this, guys, because again, share it to locals, share it to expats living here, share it around the world, right? Because this is what it's all about, right? So in here, you're going to get things, you're going to reminder of things. The way I see life is that we're born with everything. It's just that we forget. So we need to be reminded of stuff, and then also remove stuff that we don't need, right? So it's maybe watching this, there's a few things that are going to drop into your mind, and maybe you're going to think, you know what, I want to just speak up. As I said before in the beginning, if you do, then feel free to message, and we can hook it up, right? Happy to do that. And as I mentioned, every Monday, 7 p.m. to whatever it's going to be, 8 p.m. usually. All right, and that's Bali time, so that's +8 GMT +8 apparently. And in Australia, it's probably 2 hours, 11 p.m. 9 p.m. Sorry.
It's +7, isn't it?
+8.
Well, UK is +7 right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Bali time. You work it out, guys. All right. So I'm going to ask you for a closing comment in a minute. So I'll give you time to think of what that might be, whatever comes up. In the meantime, I'll chat for a little bit longer. So, okay, so I've mentioned Tropical Nomad, I've mentioned SpeakuP Monday, I've mentioned Itchy, I've mentioned Bella, I've mentioned that we're going to be doing this on YouTube very, very soon. And look, what I want to give homage to is that there are some people here in Bali which are doing some amazing things, right? Adrian Reed is one of them. I can't mention everybody because it's not going to come into my head. Rhonda Swan, doing amazing things. Gil Petersil, doing amazing things. Obviously the guys at Tropical Nomad doing amazing things. Julian, who was here earlier on, doing some amazing things. Right, there's a lot of people here. The Yak magazine, Sophie Digby, love you girl, doing amazing things. But there are so many. Lee Stone, we mentioned him. Andrew Stanway, we mentioned him. Like there's a lot of names, right? A lot of names. All that I'd love you to do is just to reach out to people, because as Sue so rightly said, now is the time for collaboration, right? Now is the time to reach out and work together, whichever country you're in the world, wherever you are. Now's the time to reach out and to collaborate and to create projects together with people that were your competition before. It's called co-opetition. Co-opetition. It's a word that basically means that it's seemingly competitors which are cooperating, because at the end of the day, right, you can fight over the little bit of pond that you've got, or you can create a much bigger pool in which you can all feed. Right, so what this is about creating a bigger pool by collaborating, by joining forces to create a much bigger supply, right, or a much bigger demand as well, which we can all feed, which we can all create something out of that can sustain us all. Right, so this is kind of where this is going. And this SpeakuP Monday, and I'm doing another thing called Turn Your Story into a Book. We're going to shoot here this Friday. So anyone who wants to turn their story into a book and a 6-figure income as well, I'll be doing like a live event around that. It's also the Facebook group, Turn Your Story into a Book. Check it out on Facebook. All the details are in there, right? And Sue, you're next. She doesn't know it yet, but she's going to do a book. She doesn't know it yet. And this will
6 figures, okay. I'm into
the 6
that.
figures. But this is part of it, right? It's about pulling out stories, pulling out principles, pulling out things that make us tick, things that we have in common, things that inspire us to do great things. And those great things can be small things. It can be great things, right? But they're all great things. That's the way I see it. Because each one is like a dent in the universe for positive change. And when we link all of these up, it creates a wave of change, right? And that's what this is all about. And that's why I mentioned all those people before. And there are many, many more in Bali as well as other parts of the world which are doing amazing things. So support them in whichever way you can. All right? Now, I've given you long enough to think, Sue. Nothing big here, nothing major, but is there anything that you'd like to leave people with?
I think my closing comment would be, I've already mentioned that things are not so easy in Bali right now for a lot of people. A lot of people are struggling. That I'd like to make a shout out to Crisis Kitchen, to scholars of sustenance, not substance, and there's many others, and to Project Nasi in particular. They're the ones that keep coming up for me, that wherever you are, if you can make a donation, they are doing absolutely amazing things. And these are not, people who have pulled these together are not people in the position to easily be able to do it. They themselves are also struggling with their own companies and businesses, but they've come together, and we volunteered there a couple of times, and it's amazing what they're doing. There are thousands and thousands of food packs going out to people that need it all over Bali. So if you can donate, Google any of them and you'll find their PayPals and their Facebook and whatever else you need. You'll definitely find them if you want to. Please support if you can.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And that's so Crisis Kitchen, Scholars of Sustenance, and the other one was?
Project Nasi.
Project Nasi.
Nasi. Nasi means rice in Indonesian, if you're watching from somewhere else.
Thank you. All right, guys, so we'll wrap this one up here. Thank you so much for watching, and look, love you guys. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for sharing in advance. And we'll be back next week on Monday here at Tropical Nomad. Love this place. All right, back here, Tropical Nomad, next Monday, 7 o'clock. Actually, feel free to come and look. You can actually come in and check this out live. It's good fun. We'll be getting back to that as soon as things calm down. Thank you. Thanks, Itchy.
See ya.
Thanks, Bella.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Sue. Off-screen hug about to come.